Hi guys, it's SimLicy here. So welcome to another apartment renovation. So today I am back renovating this apartment, which is another city living apartment. And this time I am building here in the Culpeper House apartment building. And I think it's 17 Culpeper House. I might be wrong about that, but either way, you can look on the top left-hand side of the screen. So if you want to place it in your game, that's where it goes. So for this apartment, I want to do something that was fairly cluttered and lived in and not necessarily fancy, but not run down either. I wanted it to look very average, like a regular family lives here, and I just wanted it to feel very cozy and lived in, and I hope you guys will like it. I really just love the way it turned out. I think it's super cute, and I imagined it would be a perfect apartment for a single mom and her 2 kids. Of course, you could have 2 parents in this apartment if you would like to. You might not want any more than 2 kids because there's only 2 bedrooms in this apartment. And I put bunk beds in the kids' room. But of course, if you want to like cram pack it full of beds, you probably could. But yeah, I thought this was a nice idea. And I do imagine this mom works a lot. Maybe she even has 2 jobs to provide for her boys. And they're just kind of, they're old enough to watch themselves, I think. And so they come home from school and sometimes they're by themselves or sometimes they go out and play. They do have rules though, like they're supposed to be in before dark, but they're kind of just like, they're kind of wild, I imagine. Maybe they even sometimes get into trouble, but they have like good hearts when it comes down to it and they care about their mom. I think probably the most in the world, like that's their main person. Obviously it's their mom, it's their only person they have in the world, and so they really love her and they support her a lot. I think she is probably trying to go out on a lot of dates. She's trying to find a husband. She probably wants a companion to raise her kids with and to share her life with, obviously. And so I thought this was kind of a nice story. It actually reminds me of a book that I read recently. If you guys are familiar with the astrophysicist, maybe her name is Sarah Seeger, I think is how you say her last name. But either way, I read her memoir recently and I don't want to give it away in case you guys are interested in reading it, but she found herself single and she had 2 boys and she started dating at some point, and her children were so supportive, at least from her like retelling of her story in that book. And I found it to be very sweet, and her story is just super tragic and I got very emotional and I cried, and yeah, so it kind of reminded me of that as I was building it. I wasn't necessarily trying to go for her story necessarily. I don't think this mother is an astrophysicist, but it did kind of remind me of it as I was like building and decorating this apartment. So yeah, hopefully you guys will like it. I wanted it to feel lived in, like I mentioned, so I especially wanted to decorate the refrigerator with art projects. So I used some in-game children's artwork to decorate the refrigerator and some other decor that I thought would look nice, kind of like stickers and school project and artwork, and maybe even kitchen magnets we could pretend. I could have probably actually found different wall hangings and like size them down to maybe look more like refrigerator magnets, but I thought the objects that I chose actually look pretty cute on the refrigerator, and I wish there was like an easier way to actually decorate refrigerators, but thankfully with the placement of the refrigerator in this apartment, I could use move objects and the 9 key. I just had to delete the walls surrounding the refrigerator to be able to place them. And I of course have the tool mod installed, so I think I turned the angle of one of the objects, but other than that I didn't use it. I used it a few other times in this apartment, but I didn't use it to actually change the apartment itself. I've been doing that a lot recently with like replacing windows and doors, but I wanted this to be more player friendly for console players, so this time I decided not to do it, but I did use it in other parts. But you don't need the tool mod if I use it just to resize objects or to place them, but to actually change the structure of the apartment, then I think is where it becomes necessary. So yeah, I didn't do it here, but yeah, as you can see, I'm cluttering up the kitchen. Oh, and something else you might notice, I am using the older version of Dove again, which I used for a long time, and I love it. I missed it. I was using the most updated version of Dove 2.0 pretty recently, and I was liking it. It's very similar to the original Dove, but the shadows are a little bit less, and It's just a little bit different. It's very similar. I do like it, but I was missing the original one. So I decided to go back and download it, and I was having so many difficulties. As I mentioned in my last video, I moved my office into our spare bedroom, and then I moved the spare bedroom into my old office. And in that moving process, something happened to my computer. Thankfully, my husband went and did something, and it seems to have fixed my problem. But my game was crashing, my computer was crashing. I couldn't get Reshade to work. I think some of these problems were like not correlated. They just happened to happen at the same time. But my OBS, I think, was acting up and it needed to update and it wasn't updating properly, but that updated and everything seems to be working fine. But I had no idea what happened in between moving my computer from one room to the other, because like nothing changed except for I had my graphics card updated. So I thought that was the problem, but it doesn't seem to be the problem now. So I really don't know. I don't know what my husband did to fix it, but thankfully he knows something about computers because I do not. And, yeah, so it's fixed now. My game is not crashing. My Reshade is working. I did actually reach out on Twitter and asked some people about Reshade and to see if they had like a similar issue with like the graphics being updated, but I don't think that was the problem at all. But thankfully so many people reached out and were willing to help me, and they like provided lots of resources that were very helpful. And I think the problem with my Reshade was I didn't have the edge smoothing turned off, because once I changed that in my settings, everything seemed to work fine. So if you're ever having problems with Reshade working, especially like the depth of field haze or the MXAO, which causes these shadows, then I would definitely check that setting because that was my problem. I did actually turn the depth of haze off because I feel like it's not totally necessary for speed builds. For screenshots, it's beautiful, but for speed builds, I think it just kind of is distracting and it makes your computer work harder. So I turned that off, but the rest of the effects are amazing. I'm completely obsessed with this Reshade. So I will have both of those Reshades, the original Dove and Dove 2.0, linked in the description. So if you guys are interested, I highly recommend it. Kindlespice, the creator of the Reshades, I will also have her channel linked in the description. She did a couple of tutorials about both Reshades and different versions of Reshade in general, so you guys can maybe change it depending on which Reshade you're wanting to use. But yeah, I highly recommend it. There's lots of good information. She is very knowledgeable when it comes to Reshade, and her presets are beautiful. They're my favorite. They're like exactly how I want the game to look. So I'm so happy I found them. So yeah, check out the description box in case you guys are interested in all of that. But anyways, here I am working on the bathroom. I had rambled on over the rest of the living area, but I decorated the dining room, the living room, and kitchen. Basically, my idea for all of that was to make it feel lived in. There's a few toys around, but the bathroom is especially cluttered and decorated. Like I was saying, I think this mom is very busy, so she doesn't have time to clean up, but she's also wanting to find a spouse. So she probably gets dressed up a lot. She tries to go out on dates. She's probably on like all the dating apps, and she's constantly meeting people. So I think she likes makeup. I also think she's pretty feminine. That's why I tried to use lots of like purples and pinks throughout the apartment, because I think she decorated it, not her children. So I really tried to represent her personality, and I think she's quite feminine. So the shower curtain has these flowers on it. Some of the rugs that I chose also have flower prints and different like purpley colors around it. I think it's just so pretty, but I especially loved decorating this bathroom with all this clutter. It looks like she has been, getting ready in the morning and she just hasn't had time to clean it up. And I just feel like it feels so realistic. I also put a few toys in there too, because I imagine the boys are still young enough that they might want a toy in the bath, possibly, but either way, I imagine they're just like bugging her when she's getting ready, and maybe even going to the bathroom. Like they're always in her hair, talking to her and telling stories and like talking about school and their friends or whatever they have going on. And she might be busy getting ready to go to work or go out on a date, and so they leave her like their toys behind and stuff. So I thought that was a fun idea. But anyways, over here I'm working on her bedroom. So I really wanted to show her feminine side in her bedroom, so I used this bed that came from Dream Home Decorator, as well as the chair, and I also used another purple chair, but that one came from, I believe, the paranormal stuff. But what I did was I used another Dream Home Decorator chair and I merged it into the chair. You'll see it here in a little while. It'll make more sense when you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. But I tried to create a pillow using the Dream Home Decorator chair and the paranormal chair, and I think it looks so good. But I also wanted her to have a vanity space, so again, I cluttered it up with even more makeup and just bathroom clutter that I thought looked pretty nice. And then here I'm moving the dresser. I did like the way it looked over there in the corner, but the placement of the TV didn't really make sense for the bed. And so I wanted to move it. And plus I had like the long awkward wall that just looked a little bit weird. But this is what I was talking about. This chair came from the Paranormal Stuff pack. And then the chair that I sized down and merged into it came from Dream Home Decorator. But I thought it looked like so good. It's like a cushion on the chair. And I love that stuff. I don't think the chair functions, by the way. I haven't play tested it, but I more wanted it just to be like purely decorative and to fill in the space. And I thought it looked so good. I did the same thing in the chair, or with the chair in the dining room. I used a different chair for the pillow, but I think it's probably the same thing. I don't think your Sims can actually sit there, but it makes nice decoration. And of course you can remove it if you actually want your Sims to sit there. But anyways, here I'm moving on to the boys' room. So for the boys' room, I wanted to use bunk beds. I did think about using the tool mod to delete one of these windows or two of them and kind of move them around. But like I said, I wanted it to be more like functional for console players and a little bit more friendly that way. But if you are on PC and you have the tool mod, I would probably recommend doing something about these windows because I feel like it's so many windows to have in a bedroom. But I still think it looks good and I think I made it work for the space. And basically for the boys, I really just wanted them to be into everything. I think they do have a little bit of their personality showing through. Like I think one of them is a bit more into sports and the other one is a bit more into music. But in general, they like everything. They're still discovering themselves and they're just kind of rowdy, wild little boys who like, you know, to play with their friends and to do sports and school activities and all kinds of things. And I think that's super fun. And I feel like that's also very realistic for them to not necessarily have a specific hobby necessarily. Like they have hobbies, but they're not only doing one thing. They're still, you know, playing with all sorts of toys. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyways, here I'm just adding the final few decorations and then we're already onto the screenshot. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one and hopefully you guys will enjoy the screenshots. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and please leave any comments or suggestions you have and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Look ahead, the sea is calm and I know we've been through a lot, but just wait. Wait for better days to come and carry us like wind in our sails. Hold on tight, I can smell the shore, it's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore. Now on this boat and we all know where we belong, just wait. Wait for our home to show on the horizon, soon we'll be there. Hold on tight, I can smell the shore, it's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn.